Bye! My name is Josh Miller. I own Riverstone Kennels, and I've been training gun dogs for more than 16 years. I have field trialed, I've hunt tested, but at the end of the day, I'm a duck hunter. You might find that the duck in our Duck Dogs podcast is spelled uniquely. The UK stands for my British Labs. I love my British Labs. I love what they offer me, both as a part of my family and the high motor in the field. As you're going to find, I have some pretty special dogs. Follow along in our podcast series here as we talk about both in the field hunting and in the field training situations that will hopefully help you progress with your dog at home. Welcome back to Duck Dogs, everybody. I am your host, Josh Miller. Before we get going, we need to be sure to thank our wonderful sponsors that make this show possible. Thank you to Eukanuba. Eukanuba Premium Performance Sport 3020 is the blend of food that I have my dogs on and my dogs that are at the kennel. And I would highly suggest anyone that's looking for a high-quality premium food to put your four-legged hunting partner on, go check out Eukanuba Premium Performance Sport 3020. Also, thank you to Lucky Duck. Lucky Duck is your 5-star crash test rated kennel, both in the intermediate and the large size. So no matter how big or small your hunting dog is, you can be sure that they're traveling as safe as they possibly can. www.luckyduck.com. Also, thank you to Sitka Gear. Sitka Gear is your premium option for outdoor clothing, both in the field during the fall and winter, and while you're out training during the spring and summer. Be sure to go check out the everyday wear, the rain gear. It will keep you more comfortable longer, which means you'll be more productive with your dog. www.sitkagear.com. Also, thank you to Gun Dog Supply. Gun Dog Supply is your one-stop shop for all of your hunting and training needs for your four-legged training partner. Great selection, great customer service, great people, great company. www.gundogsupply.com. Also, thank you to Kent Cartridge. Kent is your option if you're looking for poppers. I'm sorry, not poppers, blanks. If you're trying to simulate that noise of that shotgun without having the danger of actually shooting the shot, go make sure you check it out. Great for your training setups. So www.kentcartridge.com. Last but not least, thank you to Retriever Roadmap. Retriever Roadmap is your go-to option for training your own gun dog at home. And just for $29 a month, you can go through step by step. You can take advantage of the video-based library, the great community, the strike team training groups, the strike force events, so on and so on. It's just a great program, www.retrieverroadmap.com, if you're looking to train your own gun dog at home. All right, well, here we are. We are back again in studio here as my beautiful bride, Whitney, has decided to join me again today.
Hello.
Hello. I don't know how much Whitney will be involved today because my topics are not necessarily puppy-driven, but it's nice to have another voice on the show here, so it's not just me staring at the wall talking to myself. So thank you for spending the time.
Oh, you're so welcome. I was thinking you were going to say it's really nice to have a pretty face to look at or something like really nice, but then you said...
A little full of ourselves today, are we?
But one quick thing. Can you just turn my ears down a little bit? It's really loud in my headset.
Okay, well, first I have to figure out which headset is yours. Is this one?
Yes.
Yours?
Yes,
okay.
it is.
I really want to turn it all the way down so then you can't hear me, and then I'll just start mouthing, and you'll be like, how is that? Is that better?
I can't hear really. Just a little bit up, please. There we go. That's perfect.
I'm
Thank you.
already regretting this. Well, thank you.
You're so welcome.
For being here.
Thanks for inviting me.
So we have a few things to talk about that you could be involved in.
Great.
One thing I really want to talk about is the nightmare training session that I had with Hurricane, which is one of my rope horses. And the reason is because Zach, who, if you're a listener of this show, you heard the introduction of Zach a few episodes back. Zach is now a trainer or a trainer in training at the kennel.
And he made a comment after we were done, which was, that is literally exactly what all of our clients say.
Yeah.
And so I just want to bring that into the fold here. But I have a few things to talk about. First, specifically some handling observations. And I think it's going to be a neat thing. I've had a lot of opportunity here in the last few months to observe a lot of people handling, so whether that is at these strike team trainings through Retrieve Roadmap, whether it's with some of the clubs that I'll volunteer at and help with, whether that is the training seminars, whether that is hunt tests, whether there's a lot of these opportunities that a lot is kind of coming to my mind. I want to point out a couple of these because I think some of them are unique. But before we get into this, I have to unload a little bit of a pet peeve, and I'm going to rant a little bit. This has nothing to do with dogs, but has everything to do with what I believe is being a courteous human being. Whitney's like staring at me like, where are you going to go with this? Okay. How does it not only come to thought, but also how does it not become a priority to not be the smelly guy on an airplane?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, come on. I swear I get stuck with this situation on a regular basis. Now, to be fair, I have always said that I believe that my superpower is my sense of smell. Fortunately, COVID did not take that away from me. Because I can walk into a house, like, especially when there's puppies, like the puppies in the house, like I can walk one step into our house and be like, somebody shit. Like, just know, right? Like, it could be somewhere like not on that level, in a different room, closed door. I just know. And my goodness, like, how? I mean, it's mind-boggling to me, and like, it is a fear of mine. Like, I will shower numerous times. So we went fishing down in Florida with a great client, great friend of ours, a couple weeks ago, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And on the day that we left to go home, I got up, I showered in the morning. We went out fishing for like 2 hours, and I showered again before going to the airport because I'm so afraid of being the smelly guy on an airplane. And like, to me, it's really not that difficult. To me, there's like 3 steps, okay? Like, 1, bathe is a good first step.
Okay.
2, clean clothes.
Yeah.
Which I guess maybe is more difficult for some people than what I would think. And 3, like, use some level of deodorant, or like, not a cover up. Like, don't unload an entire bottle of Axe body spray on you, because then it's counterproductive to what we're trying to do. But I just, like, I'm so deathly afraid of it. And I mean, for me, okay, so this is kind of funny. I feel like everybody, if they could be honest with themselves, are in the same boat. But when you sit down on an airplane and you watch the line of people, especially if you're in the middle seat, it is like Russian roulette. It is like you're seeing people and you're like, please God, no, please no, please no, please no. And then, like, naturally you get a more attractive person, like, just more put together. Like, you're like, please be me, please be me. And I'm not saying it of like, oh, like you're trying to get like lucky on an airplane ride. What I'm saying is like naturally you think that person is probably going to be a little more put together. I'm just
taking care of themselves. I'm
just saying from a smell standpoint. Like, I had lockjaw by the time that we landed in Minneapolis. Like, and so to be fair, like, I'm not saying attractiveness has anything to do with level of smell. I'm just saying, like there are times that people sit down and you're like, oh, okay, like, I can do this for the next 3 hours. Like, this is great, right? And then there are times that, like, our trip back, my goodness.
It was so funny. I looked over, he was sleeping and his mouth was wide open breathing on you.
Like, total Venus flytrap. Just
so funny. Oh my gosh, it was hilarious.
It was, and the good husband that I am, I'm an aisle person. Every single time I'm an aisle guy. I'm in the aisle. But Whitney loves the window.
They say opposites attract.
So what do? Okay. I've always said that whenever we have two very different opinions, we compromise and do what Whitney wants.
Oh, please.
That is true. I was in a middle seat. You had the window.
And I did tell you, though. I was like, you don't have to be in the middle. But you didn't want me to be stuck by a weirdo either.
And then Whitney also did my other pet peeve on an airplane is it's the middle of the day. It's crazy bright outside.
Yeah.
We lift off. Everybody has their shades down because everybody is like trying to nap or trying to read or trying to see. And then the beam of light comes from Whitney's window and thump, and everybody just, it's true.
Well, what's the point of sitting by the window if you're not going to look out the window? For me, here's the deal.
You could do it when we're not sitting on the sun.
Well, for me, there's like a sense of control sitting by the window because I can see outside. Like for whatever reason, I just feel like a little bit in control, I guess. I'm not, because like maybe if the plane is going to like have an issue, I will like see it before like the issue really arises. I'm not really sure. And you're going to do
what about it?
Mentally prepare. I don't know. But
I just came up literally just now with the name.
Oh my gosh. For what?
Runway roulette. Like,
that's it.
When people are walking up the aisle and you're like, please, please, please.
That's
or
a really
please
good
no,
one.
please no, please no. Or
Because
I'm sorry, every one of us does that. And I'm not saying like you pray or you hope like certain people, but there's always a wonder, like, is this the one? And now mainly, I think most of us are in this boat too. Mm-hmm. We'd rather it be nobody. We'd rather be nobody sits by us.
Well, yeah, of course.
Naturally,
I
right?
mean, my gosh.
So I think most of the time everyone's like, no. Oh, okay. No. And then the one person's like, excuse me, sir. And you're like, oh. Like just because, now I don't have the whole aisle to myself, right? But I'm just saying, like, I mean, I remember, like, when I started flying and doing a lot of, like, contract work for some of these companies, like, I remember, like, my grandpa telling me about how I should be dressing up to fly because it's a privilege.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, I'd wear a sport coat. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was trying to be, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying you have to go that far, right? And because I don't go that far anymore. Mm-hmm. But I do think there's a level of respect that should be had of like, hey, we're all in this flying tub together.
How do you feel about taking your shoes off on the plane?
I'm like, why?
I do. Like how I'm sitting right now, crisscross applesauce. And I just feel like sometimes I like to sit like that on the plane. And
I'm sitting there as the person next to me being like, I don't want to be smelling your feet right now. And the problem with my nose is that I would smell you from back in the nosebleeds at 38B and you're in 4A.
Yeah, you really would.
Yeah.
I don't know. We could actually do a whole episode on airplanes. Like the whole seat reclining thing. Remember like a year ago, people were having such an issue, such a mental meltdown, breakdown when someone ahead of them would recline the seats. Do you remember that?
I remember something like that.
Actually, it was back in... It was actually last hunting season because I remember like making a joke about it on my Instagram story about reclining the seat in front of me or behind me or whatever.
So what I think is more funny, it was the story of you attempting to fly with Purdy, which I think it was hilarious. No. So Whitney has always, anytime I've ever gone anywhere, and like if I'm just going to take like one or two dogs, right? So if like we're going on a hunt, we're invited on a hunt, it's a 2-day hunt. I'm not going to pull the whole trailer down. Like we go to Texas for teal hunting or doves, or I'm not going to pull the whole trailer down with 10 dogs for a 2-day hunt. I'll bring one or maybe two, right? So Whitney's always like, just fly. You can fly with them as a service dog. They sit right at your feet. And I'm like, no, I don't think that's right. And she's like, yes, it is. Okay. Well, I would not be able to handle being embarrassed in front of everybody by saying, no, your dog can't go on the airplane. And I've put all of my eggs in this basket, right? So I drive. So Whitney was going to meet me in Kansas on a dove hunt and was going to fly Purdy. And you got to the airport at what time in the morning?
Oh my gosh, it was like 4 a.m., which means I had to get up at 2 a.m.
Yeah. And what did they tell you when you got there?
They looked at me and said... They said, "Is that the dog?" I said, "Yeah." And they go, "She can't fit under the seat."
Good grief.
Oh my gosh, it was
So-
and I was like, "What?" I
So
was so like,
Whitney's
well,
telling me
she's such a good dog. Are you sure?
still doesn't make it where she can fit under the seat.
She could have sat in my lap just like a child.
She's like 60 pounds.
We would have made it work.
I mean, so like so many things come to mind. Like when Whitney's telling me this story. So first we go out. So we're hunting. So I think you missed opener
I did.
or opening day.
Yeah.
So we got up. We hunted that morning, and the area we hunt in Kansas, we don't have the best cell service. So like, just didn't hear really from Whitney. I think you texted me saying I'm away at the airport. Have a good first hunt, whatever. So we did the hunt, got back, and so I just like. No, maybe you text me and you're like, "Hey, I'm driving." I was like, "Oh, I can't wait to hear this." But like, what do you think? Like, I would have loved to.
I was not mortified or anything.
I would have been.
I know I wasn't. I turned up. Well, I think like so many people gave me such great compliments of how good of a dog she was in the airport because she was amazing. And so I just like
not good enough for Delta apparently.
so I just like turned around and we happily walked to our car to drive 8 hours. I think.
When the lady asked you, "Is that the dog?" Like,
I was
didn't you just
literally-
want to be like, "Nah, this is the one I brought in for show." Like, of course it's the dog.
No, but like I was literally so proud, right? Like I'm proud Birdie's sitting there. She's so quiet. You never know she's there. I was like, yeah, this is her. And they were like, she can't fit under the seat. You can't go on the plane. I was like, well, maybe the lady talking to me on the phone that helped me book my flight should have mentioned my dog had to be like 12 pounds or
Yeah,
less.
probably should.
Like,
Key
come
detail.
on.
Key
My
detail.
gosh.
Yeah,
We tried. We will get there someday.
you did. And then by the time you left the airport,
Yeah,
you could have been like well over halfway to Kansas.
for sure.
I just think it's hilarious. Anyway,
It's quite the experience.
the last thing I'll say about airplanes is that it is impossible to fly anywhere with Whitney without at some point her looking out a window at an airport being like, "It is just unbelievable that these can get off the ground." Literally every single time.
It's fascinating.
It is.
Honestly, like,
I agree with you.
what's the number one thing on my bucket list?
Probably something I should know, but I have no idea.
Josh, I talk about this all the time. To go into the control command tower.
That's right.
I think that would be just unbelievable. I find it fascinating.
Yeah. I'm
I mean,
sure
my
it will be.
gosh, it'd be so fun. It's like a puzzle that you have to put together every day.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It'd be so cool.
Yeah. No, I'm sure there's probably a reason they don't give tours. I don't,
Sure there are.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on.
Man.
Did not expect that to go that long.
No,
but
it was so funny.
But please be a courteous person and like smell presentable next time you fly. Just a thought.
Just thought.
All right. Handling observations. I want to talk and kind of get into this a little bit. And actually, Whitney, it'd be really interesting, to get some thoughts, time out, back up. We're going to talk about the hurricane
Okay.
and this training situation because, as I've mentioned a lot, hopefully you guys don't get sick of this. Me referencing the roping and the horses and the training with the horses, but it is absolutely fascinating to me how similar and yet how different these two situations are. And it is one of those, like, I find it so incredibly rewarding and so incredibly intriguing of how this puts me in my client's shoes. Me being, the person that's trying to learn and trying to be the best horseman I can be and trying to, for me now having Willie, my older horse, our older horse, and Whitney's pet peeves when I say mine, it's actually ours. So our older horse and our younger horse in Hurricane, and how totally different they are. And so for me, dog, similar, right? It's making me a better horseman because I'm having to learn, like apply what Willie, my older horse, has taught me to work with Hurricane. But because they're so different, Hurricane is actually teaching me a lot of things that I should have been doing with Willie, which is now even making Willie even better, which is really fun. But I had a kind of a meltdown, rodeo, no pun intended. Well, pun intended, I guess. With training the other day. So when we rope, run up on the calf, rope, and now we're on a dummy, right? So there's a sled that pulls this big rubber and plastic calf, and I rope it, and the four-wheeler keeps driving. We stop. The dummy comes off. I can run down the rope. I can tie. It's simulating the entire run. And it gives the horse an opportunity to work without the variable of a real calf out there doing it. So again, this is like using bumpers versus using real birds, right? You're trying to simulate everything you can, but it's not the real live thing. And so you can control it more. You can go slow. Like there's often times that I will really slow things down. I'll go down the rope slower. I'll make corrections if I need to in the middle of the run. Well, I can't do that with the calf because the calf's going to be jumping at the end of the rope, right? Same thing, with birds. But there was a unique situation. So Zach, who we mentioned, working at the kennel now, and if you listen to that episode, you found out that he had a background in rodeo, and so now he is really interested, and I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to dive in and tie down rope. I think it's been really fun. Now, I'm not going to force that on him, obviously, but he seems to have a real interest in it. He seems to really enjoy it. It's fun for me to have a practice, buddy. So that's working out. But so he's been at these practices with me. And so with Hurricane, now Hurricane's been doing so good for about the last month for sure. Like I've been getting better every day with him. And we had a major setback, which is I roped and he literally, so first we were doing some practice, stuff, and he was going to just lay down, which he's never done. I've never had a horse just want to lay down on me. Okay. So I got him out of that, worked him out. That's fine. And then, we were roping. And so I rope the dummy, pull my slack. So it's tight. Dummy flips off and I go to get off and Hurricane jumps in the air, which could have been a really bad deal for me. Luckily, I got out of the stirrup. Jumped in the air, did a 180, and ran the other way. Ran the other way. Instead of stopping, backing up a few steps, being there. And I had no idea what to do. I have enough experience to understand how to progress and what should happen and shouldn't happen in a normal sense. But when these situations came up, I'm like, what do I do? So my first thought was, okay, if this was a dog and I knew what to do, I would bring him back, work him through it, make them be successful, and then end on them thinking about the success. But because I didn't know how to get to success and I didn't want to allow him to go backwards and have negative situation after negative and then maybe ingrain it, I was like, what can I do to make him successful? And so for me, it was, I got on him, I loped him around the arena, I stopped a couple times, I backed up a couple times, and that was it. I wanted him ending on a positive note. So I got done with all that, and Zach's like, how do you want to handle this? I was like, I don't know what to do. I got to call Chance. And Chance is kind of like, a coach of mine. He's very successful. He's top 15, 20 in the world. Very successful, very talented. Probably one of, if not the best ropers that come out of specifically Minnesota, but maybe even, I guess I don't want to oversell. He's extremely talented though. Really, really good horseman. And so I'm like, I got to call Chance. I just don't want to mess this up. And as soon as I said that, Zach smiled and he goes, yeah, sounds like literally every client that we hear from with a situation. I just don't want to screw it up. I think that's so interesting. And so for me, the perspective I think was so valuable because I can put myself in a client's shoes now, I think empathetically much, much better than I think when you're a professional at anything. There's things you're going to take for granted. There's things that you're going to forget about, maybe the growing pains, maybe and dog people are really bad at it, generally speaking, right? It's like, well, just do this. Like, just do that, or there's no other way to do it, but, oh, you have to do, like, there's oftentimes a lot of variables, right? So, like, when I talked to Chance then the next day, there's a lot of things that he was trying to figure out, like, what's his weight like? Is he sore? Is he hurt anywhere? Right? And I mean, I don't know enough to, like, be able to answer those questions right away, right? Well, our answer may lie right there. And so that's where, for me, I'm trying to, okay, I need to spend more time around Chance. I need to spend more time just riding. It doesn't have to be. And then, so one thing that was really interesting, and I would challenge everybody to think about this, because then I related this to dogs right away. So Chance said, how often have you been riding him outside of the arena? And I was like, man, for the last couple of weeks, like, not at all. He's like, how much have you been roping? And I was like, 5 times a week, roughly. And he's like, so think about this. You have a young horse that is literally doing nothing, but he's in the pasture or he's out working. Out working. He's like, he needs his brain to stimulate, do something different. He needs to go on a trail ride. He needs to go do something other than just go work. Like, he needs that. And then it hit me, right? As he's saying that, I was like, Chance, like, I totally get that. And I was like, now, to make matters worse, we do now as of yesterday, but at the time, we didn't even have calves.
Right.
So he's literally just chasing the dummy. So when you add a real calf into it, naturally, he's going to get more excited. He's going to want to watch it. The calf's going to do different things. He's going to have to respond, like, mentally more engaging. Again, dogs. If we're throwing the same rubber bumpers, doing the same stuff, doing the same, and then all of a sudden you get to a point you're like, well, what's wrong with you? Like, there could be a mental side of this. Oftentimes, likely is. Sometimes we forget about that. These are animals. They have emotions, right? They have feelings. They have energy levels. They have, like, I was guilty of not thinking about that with Hurricane. So what are we going to do? Well, we're making it a priority to get him out and get him doing something else. Be happy, be less pressure, be less, like, let's pump him up, do something different. And then we come back, guess what? You're going to see calves. Get excited, and so it was just such an interesting situation. And you saw it.
I did.
What'd you think?
I was like, what is going on? I had no idea. I was actually, I mean, you know way more about the horses than I do. And, like, I just look at them and I'm like, they're such big animals. Like, what, like, my thought was, like, what else is going to go wrong? Or, like, is Josh going to get hurt? Or is Hurricane going to get hurt? Or, like, I had no idea. I was like, how do we fix this?
So that was my first thought too. How do I fix this?
Yeah.
Right. And again, from a dog standpoint, how often does something go wrong? Like, oh shoot, how do I fix this?
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And so here's the difference, I think, with the dog side of it. Here's where I think the tremendous value of having training groups is having people that you can lean on to get that different perspective, different thought, different idea. Not that it's always going to work, but then the other side of it too, it gets you outside of training in the same way you always train, in the same spot you always train, at the same tools you always train with, right? Like, it gets you out doing something different. And that's the number one thing that we hear from the strike team trainings is that, like, this is so, like, there was one individual this last week that was like, I have to drive hours just to get anywhere that I can go train. So that's why this is such a blessing to be able to come here and do this. So it's really interesting, but I think it's a thought that I would challenge everybody with is think about what you've been doing with your dog, how you've been working with them, and have you given them any kind of release outside of what your day-to-day objective is. I think it's great we all have goals. I think it's great we're pushing the goals. I think it's great we're trying to progress every day, get better every day. But sometimes getting better is loosening the reins a little bit, giving some mental clarity, giving a mental breath. I mean, I can tell you for me, like, looking at a business side of things, like, you were great at making me realize that. I would have burned myself out by now. Because I'm so
sure.
go.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm, to me, 7 days a week is not a big deal, right? 14-hour day is not a big deal. Well, it is a big deal because if you wear yourself out, you don't realize that you're taking away, whether it's the energy you bring, whether it's the attitude you bring, and it's affecting everyone around you. And when you're so dialed into, you got your blinders on, you don't notice it.
Right.
And so that's where you have been a major blessing to me in that, in the inside this business is checking that, like, hey, you gotta do something else. Now for me now that I have roping,
Yeah.
I have a release that I can do something different. I actually think it's a great thing for me that it's still working with animals and it's different, right?
For sure.
But like before that, it was like beer league softball. Like that was not a release for me. I'd be so
Right.
pissed off by the end of every game because I'm like, how can you guys not understand, like, when you get this ball in this position in this scenario that you do this with it? Well, I've done this for my whole life, and not everybody has, and I'd be like, so
when you're a very goal oriented person, like you have this line of how you want to get to this goal. You're going to do everything you can to be the best to get to the goal and be the best at that goal. That, like, obviously for your personality, it is hard to just kind of turn off that type A personality and be like, okay, it is okay to just go and relax and have fun just because you're so goal oriented, which is why you're so successful.
Well, but then, one, thank you. But two, I think that's why this is such a good reality check, because I know there's going to be somebody listening here that can self-identify. And sometimes to self-identify, you got to put your ego aside, right? Put your ego aside and say, is that me, right? Because the reality is that, especially with dogs, and I think horses the same way, and probably one of the reasons that I didn't see it, but like they are wanting to do what you say they're going to go do all the time. Right? Horses may not want to go do it all the time, but like I would say, I think ours do. Like, I think Willie gets in there and he's like, let's go.
He loves
right?
it.
He really does. But your dog wants to go with you, wants to go work, wants to go because you say to go do that. You have to be the one to understand, hey, we need to do something different. Hey, we need to change it up. Hey, we need to take a few days off. Hey, we need whatever that is. You need to dictate that. And I feel like with dogs, the biggest reason that people have a hard time identifying that is because, especially men, I think women are way better at this, but men have egos. Like men, you watch a training group, or you watch like a test, you watch something like that, men will get really upset at a dog that does something wrong.
Oh my gosh. I honestly, like, that is one reason why I do not like to go to the tests.
Yeah.
I'm just like, do you understand the situation you're putting your dog in? And you're going to, like, how many other dogs are there? How many mouths has that bird been in? How long has that bird been sitting in the sun if they don't want to pick it up? Like, there are so many things. I'm like, take a step back and, like, be thankful that your dog made it this far and use it as a way to say, this is what I need to go and work on. Every opportunity is a learning opportunity.
And the funny thing about that whole thing is, probably 9.5 times out of 10, it was something that the person did. The person screwed it up, right? But again, ego-wise, the dog.
I know,
the
and
dog.
it's like the poor dog is doing its best.
Right? Okay, so that segues me in to some of these handling observations. Okay, and I think the reason I want to point these out is that you may or may not be doing these just naturally, but I think that there's reasons to objectively look at yourself as a handler and say, could I be doing better? And if I could be, what are those things? Sometimes videotaping yourself, I think, is a huge deal. I think videotaping yourself, you can see a lot of things from a different perspective. But too often, I think, again, from a handler standpoint, that the situation is not read correctly. Okay, so the first one that I have is understanding what is wrong. This is one that I do think happens a lot. So you think something's going on, and the reality is something completely different. So if you give a correction, whether that's verbal, e-collar, run out there and make it, right? You're correcting a dog that is confused. or that you're correcting in an improper manner. So, for example, and I'm going to use this example. So I got a different Zach. He's part of the strike team, and I'm just going to use this example. Now, I'm not saying Zach did this, but I'm saying this is an example, a prime example of potentially a misinterpretation. So Zach's a great dude. Really, from day one, I've really liked Zach, and he's done a great job with his dog.
Yeah.
He's done a really nice job with his dog.
Yep.
And so at this last strike team training, I had a cool setup. I think that was really going to test dogs on breaking, steadiness, a little technical marking, and then I had a couple blinds set up, and I had one blind that was much easier, just because we have dogs at all levels, and I had one blind that was pretty difficult. It was probably, I'm sure it was north of 250 yard wise, and they had to carry the line through the hayfield, through a cut bean field, and then over a fence row. No fence, but the row was still there. I mean, we're talking, think about a fence row, so probably like 3 feet ish, 4 feet wide, and probably 2 to 3 feet tall, brush wise. They had to carry it over that, and then it was probably another 50 yards into the next field. So there's a lot going on. And there was more than that, but from a verbally painting the picture, that's about as best I can describe. And what was, from Zach's standpoint, okay, so we started running, and I ran Brock on it just to show everybody. And then I ran Tucker on it. And then I ran Boris on it. And I don't think I saw anyone else run it except Zach. And so Zach went out there, and now it's starting to rain, right? So it gets a little, dark clouds, no thunder or anything, so we're just going to kind of keep training through it. It's just drizzly. But he was trying to cast his dog over that fence row. And so the dog is probably sitting at about 200 yards right now. And the dog sits down, and he gave him a couple casts, and the dog was taking like the wrong cast, and he sat him, so gave him a cast, he took the wrong cast, sat down, or tweet again, sit him back down. Gave another cast, there was kind of a hesitation, the dog went, wrong cast, sit him back down again. Then Zach gave a cast, and the dog just froze, didn't do anything. He kept saying back, wouldn't go. And now in this situation, again, I'm not saying Zach did this in this situation, but I'm saying a lot of times in this situation, a handler would be upset. He's refusing me. He's shutting down. He's right? And what I was reading was that he's seeing something that's not right. Now, think about the dog.
The dog.
Right.
Yeah.
So think about the dog. He's sitting about 200 yards away. We're all wearing darker rain gear, right? Blacks and browns and whatever else was up there. There's probably 20 or 30 people up there. There's a side-by-side. There's he just can't see it. That's what I read. So I literally ran up behind him, and I had one of our white Retriever handler cars, and just handed it to him. I said, use this. And he stuck his hand behind me, he took it. Literally the same cast that this dog just refused 3 times in a row. Put his hand up, said back, poof, drove back, perfect line, or perfect cast, over the fence row, carried it, boom, picked it up. And literally everybody that was in the audience was like, whoa. I think it was eye-opening.
Yeah.
The dog wasn't refusing the cast. The dog wasn't giving a cast denial, right? He wasn't, he literally couldn't see. He had no idea. That white card, clarity, I can see Dad now. Boom, that's where I'm going. Boom, carry it. So I think understanding the moment, understanding the situation is a big deal. And that's where, now I'm not saying it's easy, right? I just told you the example of I am not understanding what is going on with Hurricane, my horse. Not understanding it, right? I've never been here before. I don't know, what could have caused this. I don't know how to fix it. But I do know that he wasn't doing this just to do it.
Right.
Right? There was something else there. And so in this case, that was just an example that I had of this, right? Of that. I think a lot of people may have misinterpreted that. And I think if you had a collar, it would be way easy to go back, burn, back, burn.
For sure.
The dog's not understanding it. That is a much different, to me, like, yeah, you could make a dog go back, especially if you've trained burn to back, okay? Like, you could make him do it. But that doesn't mean that you're making any progress. That doesn't mean that you're understanding the root of the problem, which in this case was he couldn't see you.
Right.
I
have a question.
Yes.
When Zach was casting him, trying to go back, does Zach use verbal and hand? So when he says over, and his dog, like, obviously his dog's going left and right, like, does he say over? So his dog at least, like, he knew he wanted him to go. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you know how you say you're more silent in your casting.
I like to be, so I will vocalize on a straight back.
Yep.
Often.
Yep.
But there's certain dogs that I change it with, right? There's certain dogs that maybe I want him to take an angle, but then I want to, like, kind of scallop it more of a straight back, and so I'll give him an angle, and then he'll start going. I'll yell back to kind of like push him straight back. So what I'll often say is on backs, to not vocalize on angle backs.
Okay.
Only vocalize on straight backs because that exact situation. If you give, let's just say, a left angle back, and the dog can't really see you, but he hears back, he might just dig back, straight back.
Yeah.
Because that's how you've taught him.
Right.
That's how you do your pile work. That's how you do, like, all your progressions is back, 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 back. So if he can't see the cast, but he hears it, he may just dig back. So that's why I say on angle backs, I always recommend not verbalizing the back. Just showing it to him.
Yeah.
But at that distance, okay, so we're at
oh my gosh. Yeah.
200 plus yards.
Yeah.
We're at, it's getting windy, it's getting dark, it's getting rainy, it's getting there, all these variables. And I think the dog was more shutting down in that situation because he just did, it was either 2 or 3 times, I can't remember, but 2 or 3 times that, who knows what he saw.
For sure.
Maybe there's someone behind us talking with their hands, and he was seeing a hand and just was like going on the hand. Or who knows what he saw. But he thought he saw something and was trying to take it. So now 2 times or 3 times in a row, he takes what he thinks is right, and immediately there's another whistle. And I can't remember if he said no or anything, but, like, obviously the dog knew.
Yeah.
So the dog was like, I don't know where to go.
Yeah.
Right? Wasn't refusing it, just going like, I want to be doing this right, and I'm not. So I don't know what to do from here.
Yeah.
Well, all of a sudden, that white card added clarity.
It was so funny when he did that. He took that cast then because everyone was like, oh my gosh. Like, everyone just stood there amazed.
Yeah.
Because unless you actually see it work like that, you don't understand how big of an effect it has.
That's right. Yeah, it's a big deal.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. And especially from, okay, so from a handling card, you can't use them in tests. Okay, I get it. But if I'm trying to train the most efficient gun dog, duck dog, pheasant dog that I can, I want to put the tools in my favor to do that. And while I'm hunting, I'm doing everything I possibly can, especially waterfowl hunting, to disappear. The thought of that dog can turn around at 300 yards and pick me out and take a direction with my hand is pretty crazy. Now, they do it, absolutely. But in that situation, like, we have a video from down in Arkansas where we're kind of like in a ditch line with some trees around us, and it's a dark day, cloudy. It was probably even earlier in the morning. But, like, when we're all standing there in our camo, you can hardly see us.
Yeah.
And this was only at, like, 60 yards. Maybe not even that. I think we said it was at 60, and then we actually stepped off for, like, that was like 40, right? But it's not far, and you still can't hardly pick it up. Now, quadruple that distance. How in the world, right? But that dog turns around and boom, sees that white stand out.
Yeah.
Now, you might be going, well, what are you going to do with that white? Well, you put it in your pocket. I'm not saying have it out on display the whole time, but I'm saying, like, it's a tool that you can put in your pocket, in your blind bag, in your arsenal to make your dog more successful, which is what we all should be going for.
Well, it's literally a tool. It's just like a whistle. It's just like a leash. It's just like a collar. It's just like everything else.
Quite frankly, personally, I think they should be allowed in tests. I mean, if I am using it hunting, which is what this whole thing is supposed to simulate, to me, I should be able to use it. Now, I understand that there's boundaries and there's things like you're trying to keep, like, I get it. But I don't see what that one's hurting. And
No, for sure.
maybe there's someone else that has a different opinion that want to have a discussion on it, and I'm totally open to that. But this whole thing, the game is supposed to be trying to replicate hunting. I just don't think it is in a lot of ways. But and I'm not saying that as like a knock. I'm just saying like this is one of those situations that, like, again, hunting, I would use this. I do use this. My dogs hunt more than most. I won't say more than most, but I mean, like, I won't say all.
So your dogs
right.
just hunt a lot.
They do. They hunt. Well, they do. They hunt way more, way more than most dogs, and I use it. Right. So, like, I just don't understand. I don't understand that personally. Anyway, moving on. Number 2. I don't understand why so few people praise the dog when they do it right.
I know.
I mean, it's almost an uncommon thing to hear someone actually praise a dog.
I feel like people look at it as a weakness.
Well, again,
Ego.
I think it's a male ego thing.
Yeah.
You look at women. Women are great at being cheerleaders.
100%.
They really are.
Yeah.
I do think it's a male ego thing.
Yeah.
And for me, like, I can't remember who we were working with on Saturday, but there was a dog that was just a little unsure, like taking their cast a little weak, right? And I think my comment was like, give the cast when they start going, just say, good. Immediately the dog picks up and starts running harder, right? There's something like, there was something there that the dog knew what to do, but it was almost like he was more worried about doing it wrong than he was about doing it right. And so that little bit of praise, goes a long way, right? I just don't understand where this like rigidness of like it's a dog, it should do it. Yeah, you're a person, you should catch this baseball when I throw it at your face. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Everyone wants to be told when they're doing something right.
Yeah, 100%. And these dogs are the exact same way.
And okay, then going back to Willie, do you remember last year with Willie when you got on him and you were like, I'm just going to start praising him. I'm going to let him know when he's doing it right. And do you remember that massive difference?
Huge.
That you saw in him? Just a little pat on, like a little rub on the head between his ears, and instantly his head was higher and he was so much more zoned in, more excited.
That's right. Yeah, that's
same
right.
exact thing.
Yeah. Chance actually pointed that same thing out when I was when he was teaching me about hurricane. Because so like when specifically going back, like backing the horse up, I would just keep that pressure on, back. And like he's like, man, like you releasing the pressure is how he knows he's doing it right. Like you got to let it go. Like you keep him going back, but like don't be hammering on him. Like you got to give him the reward of like you're doing it right.
Pressure on, pressure off.
100%. It's a 100%. It's exactly the dogs, right? It's a different
Totally.
application, but it's the same idea. Yeah, they got to be, to me, like, you got to tell them.
For
and
sure.
I want to, quite frankly, I want to have a dog that wants to be praised.
Totally.
Because if they don't, they're in it for them. They want to go do it for them. They're not doing this for you. They're not doing this as a team thing. They're doing it for them. Now, I think there's a time and place for that dog. And I think there's a handler that dog fits. It's not me, but I do, like, I've got really good friends that's the dog. I have friends of mine that I was in their wedding. That's their dog. And that's totally fine. But like, it's just finding your fit. Right. So,
and there's like a line for how much praise you give too, because if you give too much,
that's fair.
The wheels fall off. If you like, you just got to find like all they really need is like, great job, buddy. Like good boy, good girl, whatever it is.
Totally.
Something simple.
Yeah, I totally. Number 3 is turning your back on the dog. So here's my story on this. And I see this all the time. So we were actually training. I don't think you were there. This would have been a long time ago now. And I was training with Rick Smith. So was running Easton, and I was kind of struggling through something. And I can't remember exactly what it was. It was something on a handle, and I think he was kind of working through with me. He was kind of like in the background. I remember he was sitting on a chair. And I was trying to work him through something casting. I can't remember what it was. And I was like working. He finally did it. So when he did it, I remember turning around to him and like starting to talk through what it was that like I was seeing there, why I was frustrated with that. And I turned around and he said, turn back around. And Rick had this way, he probably still has this way, of when he's passionate about something, he can come across like he's pissed. He's not, right? But he's intense.
Totally. And
so I turned right back around naturally, and Easton comes back in, and he came over my shoulder. He goes, "You ever turn your back on that dog again, I'm gonna pop you in the nose." And I was like, "Okay." But afterwards, after we got to talk about it, right? He's like, "That dog just worked his tail off, trying to work with you to get through what you were doing." And he finally did it. And all that he wants when he's coming back is to see you happy and see you excited to greet him back, and you turn your back on him.
Oh.
You know, like, and
that just like gets you in the heart.
I know.
When you think about it.
And for me, I'm just like, gosh, like, I've never thought of it that way, right? And again, male ego, right?
Yeah.
You did your job. Okay, I'm gonna like, and there's something about like, I think there's something like, people think it's cool, like to just turn their back and just like, like, oh, the dog should be coming back, you know? But ever since then, it's something I continue to see. Like, I mean, I've even seen, people like the dog turns around and look for him. They just, turn around and like turn their back to him. Like, totally personally disagree with it.
I feel like there's a lot that you can miss by turning your back. Like,
no, you can't, you literally honestly, can't read the dog at all. Literally.
Well, yeah, and you could miss so much. They could be coming back. They could get distracted, right? You don't see that distraction. Now you're pissed off at the dog.
That's right. Yeah,
because
it was your fault.
Because you weren't watching.
It's your fault. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And, so, but it happens a lot.
A lot, yeah.
And it's one thing that I continue to try to point out. Like, don't turn your back on the dog. I mean, even if it's, from, one, the job's not complete yet. Right, so why are you giving up on it? The dog's not giving up on it.
Yeah.
If the dog were to give up halfway back, you'd be upset, but you're giving up on it, right? So that one's a kind of a hot button, not a hot button. Like, you don't get upset about it, but like it's a trigger for me because of that situation. Because I keep going back to it, mentally. It literally brings me back to that moment every time.
Oh, I'm sure.
And it's a point that Zach actually made that point. So Zach at the kennel. I can't remember if I told him not to turn around or there's something, but he's going through a lot of learning right now. Like he's being trained to be a trainer, right? And he's got a long way to go, but I think he's a great person. Like he's got the right work ethic, he got the right mindset, he's got the right attitude, I think he has the talent to be a handler. Now, not all trainers have the talent to be handlers. Not all handlers have the talent to be trainers. There's people that just handle, and there are people that just train, and that's fine. That's totally cool. But I think he has the talent to do it. So where I'm going with this is that for him, he's looking like he's learned all this stuff. So I told him that at one point. I think it was because he turned around, and I was like, "Don't ever do that." And so like now, like I put myself like now I'm Rick, right? And so it was kind of fun for me. Here's the last one that I'm gonna go, just because I don't want to ramble too long. I don't know who came up with this thought, but why do people think or have any thought or expectation that training is going to look pretty and perfect? It shouldn't. It shouldn't look like a performance. It shouldn't look like, if we are training, okay, the number one reason that I do not allow people to come out and just observe me training, because most of the time those people are trying to look for, what stud dog do I like to get a puppy out of? Well, when I'm training, I'm trying to exploit weaknesses that they have or bad habits that they have and work through this. And this could be a month-long process. This could be a multi-month-long process. This could be a couple-day process. This could be a new thing that I'm trying to work out of them, right? And this is not the time, one, from a puppy person, which now you bring you into the fold on this, right? if somebody's coming for a sire visit, wanting to meet the sires, and they're going to sit back and be like, oh, I'm going to pick which sire, like, this is not the time.
No.
Like, for me to truly be training, this shouldn't look pretty. Now, there are certain people that get it. Okay. So, for example, Pete Geyer. Okay. Pete, I'm sorry. I usually don't use last names because I don't want to like call people out, but Pete, we love you. You're great. Pete has a Brock puppy named Todd. And my God, the number of times that I've called Todd Pete and Pete Todd is tremendous. Anyway, so Pete's dog's name is Todd. He's a Brock puppy. And Todd's a great dog. He's done a really nice job with him. And I had Boris out. So this last strike team training, there was, there was just an energy I felt like around. Everyone's like, oh, like run another dog. You know, normally I hate taking up everyone's time.
Yeah.
But I felt like those there was a little smaller group. There's only like 12 people, 15 people, something like that. So I was like,
at this time they were kind of sprinkling out or something. I don't know. Maybe the rain or something.
Yeah, but I mean less people. So I felt like, okay, like I can run a couple of my dogs here.
Yeah.
So I ran Boris. So I think Boris I think he's a superstar. I think he's got some stuff to clean up, but I think he's a superstar. And like I ran him on that long blind, and he would get over that fence row and want to run the fence row left or right. Well, he had to keep carrying it, back. And now there's a lot of variables there, right? Like I was intentionally having them cross that fence at an angle, right? So the temptation is to square it off at a 90 and then want to run it. And so he would do it. I'd stop him, bring him back over, cast him back over, boom, he'd go back over again. Nope, bring him back. And I would have to be yelling no the second he moved, and then bring him back and bring him back and bring him back. Well, I think the third or fourth time, I gave him that cast and he was over the top. He carried it, and it was beautiful, right? And he came back, and I could tell the vibe was like, they watched Brock, the group watched Brock, was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, watch Tucker, oh my gosh. And Boris, it just didn't feel that to me.
Yeah.
But Pete was like that was impressive. And I was like, you get it.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
you get it. Like we're training. Like I'm not trying to put on this performance. I'm not trying to like show off. We're not at a test. We're not at a, like this is training. Like I want to be working on something with you to get better.
Well, even I would say just the teamwork that had to go into that. The fact that he listened and he complied every single time with your whistle, with every signal you gave him, he complied.
For sure.
Like, that is awesome. Incredible teamwork at that distance. Of course, it's super cool to watch a dog run a straight line, go get the bumper. That's cool. But I think the teamwork and the handling aspect and the understanding from the handler to the dog, I think that is incredible.
Yeah, no, it was really fun. It was fun it was a fun session for me.
For sure.
And it was just fun for me to have someone like that appreciate. Now, he's put a lot of time into his dog. He's running master tests. He's running finish tests. He's like big into it. But like, he gets it. And that was fun for me. But I'd say that's a different level of appreciation. And that's one. But what the whole point of this thing is. And I told the group that, this week, I can't remember if it was after that or before that or when it was, but I told the whole group, I was like, guys, like, stop putting pressure on yourself when you come up here to train. Like, who in the world decided that this is supposed to look pretty?
How boring would it be?
I mean, it just like, there's this added pressure that people put on themselves to go run because it has to look good. This does not have to look good.
Yeah.
This is us working. This is us trying to get better. Maybe it's a situation. Maybe it's a concept. Maybe whatever it is the dog's never seen before. Well, let's show it to them and get them over it and make them successful at it. Like, this is not going to be a snap your finger and just make them do it. So I guess that's kind of the last one that I had. It's just like, I don't understand where the idea that training is supposed to look pretty. Like, it's fun when it does, but to truly be working on something, like, I'm going to tell you, it's probably not going to look pretty.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it might look pretty when you're progressing and there's the aha moment of like, I made it. I got over the hump. It clicked with the dog. Oh my gosh, now it looks fun and pretty for a couple of days. Okay, now let's go conquer the next thing, right? Anyway.
I think those are good. Those are really good.
Yeah, handling thoughts. But they're just thoughts. Like, as you're going through your training, as you're going through your day-to-day, in your summer months, think about that stuff. Think about a lot of things we talked about. Think about giving your dog a break.
Totally.
Mentally give them a break. Go do something other than just train with them,
Yeah.
right? Praise your dog,
Mm-hmm.
right? Give them that confirmation that they're doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be the smelly person on the plane. I mean, there's a lot to think about, a lot to process off this episode. But I think it's all good stuff. Do you have anything
great.
to wrap up with here?
No, I'm good.
We're 2 minutes late for a call, but I'm going to do some dog bowl questions because
Oh, fun. Okay.
those guys can wait. Okay. This is an interesting one. Where did you first meet Whitney?
Oh. High school.
High school.
Josh was a senior. I was a junior.
That's right.
Asked to wear his football jersey.
That's right. That's where it all started. You know what's funny? The little tidbit on that. I
What?
think it was that game, the first game.
Oh, here we go.
No. This is okay. I was so proud. Like, okay, Whitney wanted to wear my jersey. Like, maybe there's something here, right?
Uh-huh.
I think in that game, I had one touchdown and two for sure, two interceptions.
Yes, you did.
Whitney never even knew that I played.
I don't go to watch the football games.
Like,
I go
literally
to
never knew
socialize.
that I was on the field. Like, I came out of the locker room feeling like, oh, like I'm king man on campus. And
Yeah.
she had
This is
no
it.
idea.
This is exactly who we are. You're the goal-oriented guy on the football field. I'm the social butterfly, hanging out with my friends in the bleachers,
So unbelievable to me.
writing on the wall right there.
Gosh, this is another really good one for us.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Advice for working with your spouse.
Oh man, that's a really good one. Actually, took us a long time to figure this one out.
Did it though? I mean, there was
Well,
definitely learning curves for sure.
Yeah, I think you, gosh, I don't even know where to begin.
So I'll start with one.
Okay.
So I'm big on there has to be a hierarchy. There has to be one captain driving the ship, right? I have had to learn how to put that aside with working with Whitney, because Whitney would be very blunt with me of like, I'm not one of your employees. And at the same time, I think Whitney learned how to work inside the team to where, she wasn't going to contradict, something that I said, or she wasn't going to fight me on something in front of, at least in front of employees. I think there was something there, but also, we have two, it was intentional that we both have our own part of the business that we quote unquote own. I like the term own, not that she owns, like physically owns and physically owns. It's just like, that's her thing. Puppies are her thing. I try not to step on her toes. She knows training is my thing. She tries not to step on my toes. Now, of course, there's cross reference in between the two, right? So for me, I handle the trips overseas, finding the right dogs, importing the dogs in here, the relation, like I handle that side of it. So like, yeah, that's part of puppy if we were to split up somewhere. But the puppy side is like, it is you. And so I think that really helps too, of like, we both have our own space.
Yeah, and it's funny because there's a lot of like people always think we work together. Like, oh, you're together all the time, and it could not be further from the truth. Like literally at night, it'll be like, "How's your day?" Like because we're so going our own path, our own direction, doing our own thing to make everything go around. That I do think it's really, really important to have your own thing that you handle in the business, and that you also have to respect each other's part. Like you said, like you don't step on my toes, I try not to step on your toes, and you still have to be respectful and understanding that each other, like we work together, but we still have our own things that we're working on. And there's some days I don't know your struggles that you're going through. There's some days I don't know my struggles that you don't know my struggles. And so, yeah, I think it's really important to have your own part within the business.
Yeah. And then also being able to shut it off. That's the
Totally.
biggest thing that I struggled with. Whitney's much more of a live life to its fullest, kind of a person, and I am very, grow the business, grow the brand. But I also for me, I do take a very serious weight that I put on my shoulders anyway, on providing for our team.
Yeah.
Like I take that incredibly seriously, and we'll do a lot of personal sacrifices to make sure that our team is taken care of. And so from that standpoint, I think that's that little extra that can like drives me. And I think too, like naturally, like men feel like we have to be the supporters, you know. So for me, like I want to grind more, but you have done a great job over the years. Okay, so one thing that really helped us is the first kennel that we ever had. I mean, it was 10 yards from the house.
Yeah.
You know, the building.
Yeah.
Now, our building, our house, and our kennel are on two separate 40s of our property.
That you can't see each other from.
Can't see each other.
Yeah.
Separate, not separate driveways, but splits and goes in. You know, like it feels like we can go check out.
Yeah.
Like at the old kennel, like it was literally nonstop. Now, part of that is because it was like infancy growth phase.
Totally.
Right. So I had to be crying all the time, but also like there was no allowing to shut off. Like I couldn't even watch TV because I look out the window and see the kennel and be like, there's something I could be doing.
Yeah.
Right. So, you're just in a different phase now. I mean, we just have, we have a team that helps take care of a lot of this stuff. So.
But you're right. Being able to turn it off, having a personal life, not just work.
Yep.
Our kids actually really helped us with that.
Yeah, for sure.
They grounded us big time.
For sure. Yeah, 100%. All right. Well, we are now officially 10 minutes late for our conference call. But anyway, we'll jump off here and we'll come at you guys here again shortly. If you guys have not signed up for Strike Force, if you're a Retriever Roadmap member and so want to come for Strike Force, there's a lot of great.
Oh my gosh!
I've been working my tail
amazing.
off. It's pretty damn awesome. I was gonna say dang. I said damn. It is what it is. It's gonna be pretty awesome.
It is.
So it is past the deadline, but get with us. We'll get you in. But I need to get those final numbers because I have a lot of things I'm trying to prepare for. So make sure to get with us ASAP. Hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day and rest of your week. Go be great today.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Leave us a review on iTunes. And a special thank you to DUK because without them, we couldn't do what we do here, bringing this information to you.